expand on that? I'm not really sure I understand all the implications.
So we're talking on page 349 in the Maamarim Melukotim, volume 3 of the Maamarim that they collected of the previous Rebbe, and we're about to go into the details of the Nefesh Habamis, what it wants. So before that, he says, and that's what we're discussing now, that the Nefesh Habamis is Shehu HaMoishel. It's the rationalization. And Kolshke, needless to say, the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is an inclination. A midah is already an emotion. It's some form. There is, palpable, enlarged moichin, right? I'm sorry, midos, where you feel in your heart love, fear, guilt. You feel it, and there's an actual body temperature difference where you become anxious. Anxiety. You start shaking. You start sweating. You start breathing harder. All kinds of feelings are literally created when there is a yetzer, there's an inclination, there's an emotion. That's already a further step, and in this case, a further step of, shtus. I love the shtus. I cry for the shtus. I dance. I'm happy for the shtus. I'm enmeshed in the emotion. There's a step before that, and we call that Nefesh Habamis. You don't yet have the love. You don't have yet the fear. You're not sweating. And you're not, you don't have any heart palpitations. And you're not jumping up and down. And you're not crying. And you're not laughing. You're thinking. You're thinking. How can I justify? How can I explain to myself the desire that I have to drink lots of alcohol? Giving you an example. If I drink lots of alcohol, I'll feel terrible. I'll feel initially good, but then I'll have a hangover. I'll miss school. I'll miss work. I'll miss davening. I'll be a mess. I'll smell from the booze. People will know that I drank, right? All of those issues through your mind. So you have to find now a rationale and a justification to do that. That's Nefesh Habamis. That's that intellectual drive that seeks to justify the ugly and unhealthy emotion. So, if someone asks, can the Nefesh Habamis do, the emphasis is on the Nefesh Habamis, the Nefesh Olikis. The Tanya is not a book of Midos. It's a big mistake. Tanya is not Musar. Musar is a book of moral ethics and behavior. Mesilas Yesharim and such svarim are all about Midos, and very important svarim. They should be learned and used and all that. But it's already a later stage. Chasidus, Chabad, as the Alter Rebbe, encapsulates it in the Tanya, in the first 53 chapters, is primarily dealing with the drive, the nefesh, the rationale and justification. And that is why it's a very different type of a learning and a very different type of a book, and why it has made and can make and makes a change in a person, even if a person's already caught by the Yetzer Hara. You might say, if I'm already caught by the Yetzer Hara, and I'm already enmeshed in the web of the Yetzer Hara, how can I change? What's the answer? Yoni, hands down, please. How can that be? The answer is because emotions are emotions. Now, I'm going to tell you for a second, I want you to think about what you're doing. And I want you to justify, and you challenge yourself, or you challenge someone else who's a good friend. And they won't be able to justify. They think they will, but if you show them that their argument is so, excuse the expression, cockeyed, it's so warped, it's so ridiculous. So then they say, wait a minute, I'm behaving in such an emotional way when I don't have to behave that way. So this is why Chasidus spends more time on Chabad, on the brain, on the rationale, than the actual emotion. Because once you're already in the emotional stage, you're already a mess. It's so much harder to derobe yourself from the emotion than to invest yourself in healthy, positive thinking. And it may be in modern psychology, we call this, cognitive thinking, which I personally am a big fan of. And my book, Your Better Self, goes on that shita, follows that approach. And I was in touch with a prominent cognitive therapist who wrote a new mood therapy book years ago. I think his name was Aaron Beck. I don't know if Hillel, that name rings a bell to you.
Yeah, very famous. Yeah, very famous.
I actually sent my manuscript to Aaron Beck. He was out in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, I think. And I asked him for his opinion, and he wrote back to me that he's unaware of, Chasidus and Kabbalah, but he knows that it it deals with a lot of the same issues that psychology deals with. And he was very glad to see and hear that the Tanya that I'm writing about in my book, Your Better Self, takes that approach. So this is here in one line and just in a very few words, the Frierdiker Rebbe, by adding in the parentheses, Shehu Hamochin Baruch. When you see that, you don't read further. You say to Hillel, stop. What and why does the Rebbe add these words? And then if you really wanted to go even further, why are they in parentheses? Why are they not? Why parentheses? That's called real learning. You just don't read words and mimic words. That's the first step. But to really understand, you have to stop and not rush and start dialoguing and talking. Each of you questioning the other, talking out loud, and Yonason gives his input. And that's how you can get a better understanding when you learn Chasidus. That's a parenthetical remark for all learning of Chasidus. Now let's go further, because yesterday we spoke about Rabbi Milinowitz, Zechreinu Levracha, and I was in touch with people from his community, his president, and others, and I'm going to post some things, and if you guys get anything from me, or post it. And by the way, where you're sitting, in September of 2017, Rabbi Milinowitz was the first guest. I don't know if, Hillel, you there?
No, I don't think so.
I think, was anyone here there? Shmuel was there. I don't think any of you were there. Baruch, were you there?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Anyway, it was Thursday, September 17th, 2000, I think September 17th. What, 2017? It was Chai, it was Tes Zayin, the 16th of Elul, and I invited him because I would invite every so often, every few weeks, a guest lecturer. He was our first, and he agreed right away. And I told him, Rabbi Milinowitz, we don't have a big crowd. He says, what crowd? And he came, and the lecture was made a video by Akiva Kent, and I really acknowledge him. For those that remember, he was thinking of moving to Eretz Yisrael, to Ramat Bet Shemesh. He never moved, not yet. Anyway, but he's a photographer or a videographer, and he was kind enough to video it, and it's on a website. The Kollel has a website called Kollel Bet Shemesh. So if you go there, you'll see different videos. That and we captured his lecture, and who would know that that 2 years later or so, 2 years later, Hashem took him back, and we have Baruch Hashem the video, And at the end, I was standing next to him, and he was about to finish, and I said, Rabbi Linowitz, I got up, I said, give the kollel a bracha, and he gave us a bracha. So it's all on there, I think it's l'schus his neshama would be nice, and the lecture was a great lecture. He spoke about Chayel, and he has a sense of humor. So it's the Alter Rebbe's birthday, the Baal Shem Tov's, and then he brought the halacha l'kvoi doi for his honor again. Okay, to the bottom. In the middle of the line, there has to be what's going on. What's going on here?
You have to go back because we lost you.
Okay, where was I that you lost me? Basically...
Okay, you were talking about when Rabbi Milinowitz came here and he gave us a bracha.
Yes, I just finished it. I encouraged you to all watch that video that's online at Kolel Bet Shemesh, on YouTube, Kolel Bet Shemesh, and it's public. Yeah, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. Make sure I want to see the sun. I want to see the sun on the backen. In Yiddish Zokman, the backen, the cheeks. Anyway, Laser, thank you very much for inspiring us. Thank you for inspiring us from the beam over there. I saw that video. It was great. I just wish the people would sit and listen to you. Okay, anyway. So we're learning here we're on page 349. Let's continue. So he says, he brings the Gemara that when the Yetzer Hara grabs onto a person, Moshcheyu lebeis hamedrash, schlep him arayin, schlep him into the study hall, have him do it, let him try doing his shtusim in the study hall. Let's see. If he's such a chevraman, if he's such a macho guy, the Yetzer Hara, say, okay, come into the kollel, and now do it here in the kollel. Oh, wait a minute, here in the kollel, I have all these wonderful talmidim learning. Wait a minute, I can't, I'm a little uncomfortable. Let me go into the hallway. That's why in the yeshiva, where did we do all of our bummy things? In the bathroom, or the hallways, or the back of the building. Nah. I remember in Lubavitch Yeshiva on Ocean Parkway between H and I, and in the winter, when I was 17 already, I was in Beis Medrash. It was very cold, so I would stay actually all week in the yeshiva, even though I lived 10 minutes away in Borough Park. So I would go up that street, I forget what it's called, Parkville, whatever that street goes straight up.
Parkville, yeah.
It wasn't Parkville, it was another street. Today they have that Chasana hall. What?
Foster.
No, not Foster. More to the left between I and Foster. What?
Laser says Ditmas.
No, not Ditmas. Down towards Avenue I. There's one street where they have...
Elmwood.
What?
Elmwood.
So Elmwood Street is where we had the fights with the Italians. The Italians and us, sometimes they took out knives. There was train tracks over there before they built the big hall and the Lakewood and the Cheder. The building, the big Cheder, is over there. So it cover over today the tracks. But in my time, in the 70s, it was tracks. So I remember, but during the week, I wouldn't go home. It was very cold, it was snowing, and I was in yeshiva the whole time, and I loved it. Then they fed us, so I went to the dormitory. The fourth floor of the yeshiva was a dorm. So I remember coming in 11 at night, going to sleep, and I saw some guys who I knew were on the phone. Now, what do you think they were doing on the phone? Everyone was asleep. They were talking to girls. Yeah, I'm not saying everyone's doing it, but I remember, here I am. I'm this, frum boy, and I'm going to sleep, and thank God I have a bed to sleep in, and I have to hear a guy who's, goofing off over there on the phone. What's my point? My point is that the Yetzer Hara, he tries to hide this way and that way. So let's see what the Rebbe says in the Maamarim. So he says here, look at his language, very, very powerful. The first thing you have to do is you have to schlep, lahamshich, you have to draw, es hamanuvel, he calls them disgusting, naval. is disgusting, like Naval Bereshus HaTorah. So he says, get this disgusting, ugly beast into the Beis Medrash. That's the first thing you got to do. And how do you do that? You say it with words. You tell him. And you tell him, look, it's better for you to be in the shul, in the Beis Medrash. You know why? They got free coffee, free tea, free jokes, free camaraderie. Don't worry so much that it's a shul and Beis Medrash. You pick a table in the back, you pretend you're learning, and then you gossip, and then you put on your internet, and then you play poker, and then you check out the NFL scores from yesterday. But no one's gonna know. You'll hide it under your hat. When the Rosh Hashiva comes, you make believe, but you get into the Beis Medrash. So initially, he comes to the Beis Medrash, Shaloi L'Shma. It's not for the sake of learning. But Chazal say, Mitoich Shaloi L'Shma, Bo L'Shma. That from coming for an external, superficial reason, because it's warm, and I can really, waste time over there, and I get fed, Bo L'Shma. You come to L'Shma. And he says, this is the idea of Haraving and Torah. Shalzeh Omar, Ki Alzeh Omar, he says, Ki Eina Yerusha Loch. Remember, we're discussing here, lays the 3 levels of Torah, Yegia, Yerusha, and Matona. So he refers now to the first level of Torah, that it's not a Yerusha. Why? Yerusha comes without effort and exertion. Rak Yogaiti Motsasi time in this level of Torah is, if you will toil, you will find, and you can be believed. If you work hard, you succeed. If you sit on your loins, you get nothing. You think you get something, but you get bupkis, nothing. You work hard, you succeed. V'hashein is the second level of Torah is Yerusha Shabbat Torah. This is the level of inheritance within Torah. V'hainu dichsiv, it says, Meirosho Kihilas Yaakov. Torah is an inheritance to the community, to the congregation of Jacob. The whole Kihilas Yaakov, all congregations of Yaakov, Yesh Behem Din, V'Torah's Yerusha B'Torah. They have a din, and the laws of inheritance from the Torah's perspective applies to them. Very important point. If it's a Yaakov sanctioned Kehila, it has the Yerusha laws. And guess what? Every Yid is a Yaakov sanctioned Kehila because he's a Jew or she's a Jew. That's why the Torah belongs to everybody. Last night at the Kinnas HaShluchim, David Friedman, your ambassador, right, was speaking. He was the guest of honor speaker. And he said, in the middle of everything, he said, he is speaking to 5,600 shluchim. He's saying, Rabbi, my dear friends, if you want to really make a difference in a balabas, learn Torah with them. That's what Rabbi Wallowik, who's the Chabad rabbi in the 5 towns in Cedarhurst, we started to learn Tanakh, not Chasidus, not Gemara, Tanakh. And he said, I learned about Yeshua and Shoftim and the Malachim and everything else. And he says, it helped me in understanding leadership. That's what he said yesterday. So my point is that Torah belongs to every single Yid, and never minimize the fact that every Yid is shayach, is able and very much in the realm of learning Torah. Let's go further. And he says, even though it says the Torah tzivelonu Moshe, that Moshe commanded us. What is this word tziva? So in addition to it literally meaning a commandment, it also means a binding, chibur, his chabrus. There's a word tzafta v'chibur, tzafsa v'chibur. So the word mitzvah, mem tzadik vav hey, its etymology is also tzaveh, which means tzivui, connection. Through a mitzvah, right? A mitzvah that we do because the commander-in-chief commands us to do it, we connect ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'hainu, the Moshe Shubchinas Das, Moshe Rabbeinu it says, is the level of das. What is that? Hu ha-mekasher neshamas Yisrael b'Torah. Just for a moment. Rabbi Melinowitz, Olav Shalom, in his memory, I'll tell you something that he shared with me. No one knows this. I asked him, because he told me that he was a student of Rabbi Yoel Khan, who was my Rebbe in Chasidus too, and that's one of the reasons he let me into a shul, and he was, very happy to have me speak because I was Rabbi Yoel's Talmud. So I asked him, did you ever really have any personal conversation with him besides learning Tanya in the Muncie shul or yeshiva over there? So he said one time he wrote him a letter and he asked him, what is the source for a Rebbe? What is the source? You have a Rav, you have a rabbi, you have a leader, but what's this idea of a Rebbe? So Rabbi Yoel said to him, it's the chapter 2 in Tanya, where the Rebbe speaks about a Nasi, a leader. That's all he said. Why do I say this? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is Mekasher Neshamas Yisrael b'Torah. He connects and binds all Neshamas to Torah. Without a Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is a very long discussion, but just very briefly, it needs a whole share for itself. But without a Moshe Rabbeinu is not just a big gadol. Moshe Rabbeinu is not just a big Rebbe. Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu. What does that mean? He is the individual that connects every single soul in that generation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Through what? Through Torah. And this is the understanding of what a Rebbe is, of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Boaz, listen, I need you should really be living now in Japan. What should I do in Japan? You go and find yourself a job, learn Torah, teach Torah. But why Japan? I don't know why. But the tzaddik, the Moshe Rabbeinu, sees that your neshama for this time gets a completion by being there. So Rabbi Tokeyer, who was a chaplain in the United States Army, he comes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the 60s. He's a newly married. This is online. You can hear him say it himself. And he says, the Rebbe says to him, I heard they told me that they need a chaplain in Okinawa. He says, Rebbe, I don't know, how do you pronounce that word? Okinawa? What is where? What? The Rebbe says, takes a map and shows him right here. Hakachainik, in Hakachainik, Okinawa. Right here. It's right here. It's right here. Oh, he sees near Japan, He says, what? I just got married. The Rebbe says, listen, you can do what you want. You have free will. Every person has free will. I can't tell you what to do. But I'm telling you that there's a good opportunity for you for a job and to do what you want to do as a rabbi. Somehow, and he wasn't a Lubavitcher, and he wasn't a chassid. He decided to listen. 25, 30 years later, he retires, and he tells over how he saw the Rebbe's suggestion helped him so much in his life. A Moshe Rabbeinu. A Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have to tell you every 2 moments, do this because. In Yiddish, there's an expression, medaf allein verstehen. That means you have to get it yourself. You have to pick up on it yourself. Yeah, we want to be spoon-fed. My friends, we're all adults. We're midlife. We have children and grandchildren. You know what I mean? It's enough already. Enough the pampering, And that's why I say to my colleagues, after the Rebbe passed away in 1994, 25 years ago, and the Rebbe said in 1991, he said, do whatever you can to bring Mashiach. I've done everything and it hasn't happened. And everyone gets very, very antsy about that. He was saying something very simple. Grow up. I've carried you for 42 years like this. I've carried you. Grow up. Grow up. It's time to stand on your own. You can't live in perpetual, diapers, excuse the expression. Perpetual diapers, you remain a baby. Genug, take your diapers off, take your pacifier out, and go out there. And Baruch Hashem, last night, with 5,600 people, you see it. The Rebbe's not alive, and it hurts a chassid. Okay, cry, laugh, dance, bang al chait, jump on the moon, jump on this table, do whatever you have to do to get yourself balanced. But one thing's for sure, that you have to understand that the Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation, and by the way, I'm not telling you who your Moshe Rabbeinu is, but that there needs to be a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation who is the Das Hillel. He says the word Das. You know what Das is? Maturity, charisma, and focus. You have chokhmah, creativity. You come up with a genius idea. You have bina. You develop that idea. But if you don't focus and concentrate on the creative idea that you created and developed through bina, nothing comes from it. And that's why, what does the Gemara say? It's a Gemara. The Gemara says, "Ein kishu el das." There is no erection, excuse the expression, but there is no erection unless you have das. You can understand a person. You can develop the person. You can love the person. But if you can't focus on them, which comes out in the physical body, according to the Gemara, in the erection process, if you can't do that, your physical limb doesn't have what it takes to impregnate your wife, and you have no offspring from that. That's a Gemara. Ein kishu el das. Chasidus takes this Gemara. Chasidus doesn't run away like others, the Chabad Chasidus. They cover their eyes on the Gemara. Oy vey, well, we can't talk about the Gemara. The Chasidus says, take this Gemara and understand that in addition to its physical meaning, which is the real world, which is necessary when you get married, right? Okay? In addition to that, there's a spiritual counterpart, and that is that unless you have das, unless you have focus and concentration, there is no kishui, there is no everlasting result from your thoughts. It's unbelievable. He's an Einstein. He's a Spinoza. He's a whatever, a great mind. Not that we hold of Spinoza because he was not Pikoidis, but I'm saying, and nevertheless, in Hungarian they say, "Bieb yib yeah, bieb yib yeah." In other words, nada in Spanish, nothing. Efes, gar nicht, gur nicht, nothing. So many people, they're so bright, and they're such geniuses. And you look at their lives, and it's I don't want to say what, it's messed up, right? It's goofed up. It's nothing. It's garnished. Why? Because they're missing the das. Who gives a yid das? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was chosen on high from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be the Rebbe, Rabbeinu, the Rebbe of Klal Yisrael, he instills and opens up for a person the ability to das. And that's what, go back to the Maamarim. That's what the Rebbe says here. V'hainu de Moshe shu pchinas das hu ha-mekasher neshamas Yisrael b'Torah. He who is das, he binds and connects the Jewish souls to Torah. He brings together the soul and the Torah. And the idea that we are inheritants of this is that we inherit the sparks, the Sheva, next page, 350, Malkoyin, the 7 kings, the Toyu of the world of void, Shenoflu Bashvira, that fell in the Shvira, and the shattering of the vessels. Let's learn a little more and then talk the explanation. The Shosham Hei Ma'amalochim, these sparks, their source are the kings, Ashamolchu Be'eretz Edoim, that reigned in the land of Edoim, Lifnei Meloich Melech Lifnei Yisrael, before they were kings for the Jews. Ukiyadu that Sheva Midah is the 7 emotional traits of love, fear, compassion, etc. Shorsham Misheva Tachtoina is the Shem Sag. Their source is from the 7 lower aspects of Hashem's name, known as 63. Briefly, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is called the Tetragrammaton, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, can be spelled, let's say Yud, right? Ari. Yud can be spelled with 2 Yuds, or Yud can be spelled Yud Vav Dalet. Now, depending on how you spell out the 4 letters, Yud, K, Vav, K, you get 4 different numerical equivalents. 45, 52, 63, or 72. It's called Ma, Ban, Sag, Ab. So here he's talking about Sag, 63. Then there's a certain way of spelling the Yud K Vav K. The numerical gematria of that Yud K Vav K would be 63. Shutoyu b'chlal shekadem al tikkun. This is the world of void, the world of chaos that precedes the world of tikkun. Why was there a Mabul? Baruch. Why was there a Mabul before we had Avram Avinu? Because the world had to experience Mabul, chaos. Why does someone have to go to the grateful dead before he becomes a grateful Yid? Because first he has to go through chaos. And so when he goes through the grateful dead, he's totally meshuggah and dead. And all of a sudden he wakes up and he says, that's for dead people. I'm a Yid. So he becomes a grateful Yid. So in other words, you have to first go through dead, chaos, tohu, vavohu, right? And our life, it's also that way. Before you make it big in business, you go through a down. You lose money. You have headaches. Okay? You know, here this guy from Wee Works, whatever his name is, you know, an Israeli, Alfred Newman, right? He made billions. His company went public, went bust. He lost his pants. They threw him out. They found him with marijuana on the plane. You know, like that's the worst sin in the world, that he has a little marijuana. Not that I'm a proponent of marijuana. I'm just saying that, you know, anyway, he was a whack job. They fired him. He took $1.7 billion with him off the table. And SoftBank is keeping him on as a consultant. He's doing great. You know, okay, they fired him, but he just walked away, $1.7 billion. Not bad, right? What's the point? But he went through a chaos. If you and other people, they go through chaos, and so and you know you have to have real atzlacha and siyata d'shmaya, especially in business, not to lose your pants, because it says in Pirkei Avos that mar b'nechasim mar b'daige. One line in Pirkei Avos to me is a testament of reality. That the more real estate you have, the more worries. Now, does that mean you shouldn't have real estate? Yes, you should if you're able to. But create a situation in which you're not enmeshed in it. You have to be, you know, there's a famous word, laser, from the previous Rebbe. It says in Tehillim, David HaMelech says, I think it's Kuf Beis, I forget which exact capital, he says, Yegia kapecha ki tochel, ashrecha v'toiv loch. From the effort of your hands, you shall reap and eat. Fortunate, v'toiv loch is good to you. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Yegia kapecha. It doesn't say Yegia mochecha. It doesn't say that your effort should be with your brains and cup. Kapecha. But the mochin, the cup, daf liegen in Torah, daf liegen in God, has to be immersed in God and in Torah. Only your hands have to do the physical and the investing and the schlepping, but the cup has to always be free, unobstructed from the Gashmias. Now, it doesn't mean to say, because how can you do an investment, and how can you buy real estate, and how can you invest in the market, and how can you have a job if you don't put your mind into it? Of course you have to put your mind, but not have your mind become a slave to the nechosim, to the real estate, to the investment. When it becomes a slave, that's what Pirkei Avos says, mar b'nechosim, mar b'daige. What does it say? The answer to that Pirkei Avos is the word marbin. Why are nechosim a daige if you're doing it with marbin? That's why it says marbin nechosim marbin. What's marbin? Multiplicity. Meaning you totally involved, where your entire brain is occupied by the nechosim. If your entire brain is occupied, you're going to have daige. You're going to have worries and anxiety. If you can. So the Pirkei Avos so we learn wrong pshat. We think the Pirkei Avos is saying, don't do business. That's not what it's saying. It's saying, do business, but remember that your cup, your brain, your head should be always in Kedusha and Tara. Let's continue another few lines. It says, So he says, Elishanaful B'Shvira, what happened with this energy? It fell and it broke. And the sparks, we're talking here about the holy sparks, they fell into the physical world. Tzitzis, b'tzemer gashmi. Tzitzis you have with physical wool. Tefillin, b'klav gashmi. Tefillin with physical parchment. Varbo, meaning shebelulav v'sukkah v'adoim, and the four kinds of the lulav of the sukkah and similar. When you take the tefillin and the sukkah and the tzitzis, you elevate the sparks that fell into the universe for what's called klippas noiga, neutrality, the translucent klippa. And when you start using those things to refine, it's called avodas habirudim ba'ar begolius. During our time in the four exiles, right? The exile, the Golus Mitzrayim and Golus Paras, all the four exiles. B'shibud malchios, when we were enslaved from the nations, tichsiv ki bi'ar baruchas hashemayim perasti eschem. Hashem says, I have scattered you all over the four sides, the four ruchos. V'gam domer Chazal, tzedakot kodesh baruch hu b'yisrael shepizim leinomis. Chazal say psachim, seemingly a contrary saying. You know what it says there? Chazal say that Hashem disseminated us amongst the goyim. You know why? So that we should elevate the situation. So why is it that for a few years of your life, Yonason, you were in New York, and a few years you were in Muncie, and a few years you were in South Africa, and a few years you were in Yerushalayim, because you had a mission in each place. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Pizron, disseminates us all over. Seemingly, that's positive. Nevertheless, Harihu Golus Upizur. Yeah, beautiful line. Guess what? When you move around a lot, you're moving around. There's a purpose to you moving around, but the fact is you're moving around. So you know what it causes, Yoni? It causes pizur, scatteredness. My son, we lived, after my wife and I married, we lived in Marin County for 8 years, then for 4 years in Los Angeles, and then we came back to New York, and we're here already 26 years. But my son felt, and he tells me this because he says, because I told him a few times, in New York there's better chinuch, maybe it's easier with a job, and maybe to move back from Florida. He says, no, I'm staying put, because he felt even moving around 3 times for his childhood was no good for his chinuch and his development. In other words, when you're forced to move from Rome to Iran, from Iraq to Chicago, from Chicago to South Africa, from South Africa to Wyoming, and back to Eretz Yisrael, it's pizur. It's pizur. You're scattered. And that brings golus. I don't know what psychology says about this, Hillel, but, we see this in there is a concept, by the way, called Havagoylel and Koim Torah. A Yid should exile himself, it says in Pirkei Avos, to Torah, but it doesn't say you should move around 10 times. Exile yourself and stay put. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow, everyone. Sei gesund. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk tomorrow. Sei gesund.